Welcome to the True Grime Stories podcast, where in every episode, we'll unravel a new mystery of cleaning business transformation from a grimy mess to a great success. Join me, your host, Jeannie Henderson, as together we dig up cleaning business secrets that you've been dying to know. Welcome, everyone, to our next episode of True Grime Stories, and you are in for a treat today. I can't believe it, but I actually have the amazing Libby DeLucien here, who is the founder and owner of Organize It in Southwest Florida, Fort Myers, Florida area. And Libby has been in business for many years, and she has shared her story with me many times, so I can't wait for her to share it with you. And she, along with Organize It, has opened 2 additional locations, is expanding that brand, which is really cool. I know a lot of us have the dream to do that someday. And she's going to share with us about some of her other businesses and other plans for the future as well. And Libby has been a leader in our industry. If you haven't checked out Libby, please, go and follow her. She is so generous in sharing in our cleaning business community, helping other cleaning business owners and home services owners in general grow their businesses and grow their teams. She is known as a hiring expert in our industry. She has a really interesting background coming from the entertainment industry. And she also grew up with a family who raised elephants, which is really a cool deal because I love elephants. Is my favorite animal. So that's one of the things I love about Libby as well. She is a mom and has a wonderful husband, Chris. All of her family is involved in her business. So those of you who have family businesses, Libby can really relate, because we were just talking about that the other day, how everyone in her family is involved in her business. I think that's really cool too. And she's raising her kids up to be entrepreneurs as well. So Libby, welcome to True Grime Stories. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Jeannie. That was a great intro. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you. And I've been eagerly waiting for you to join us on this podcast. It's not easy to get Libby and I in the same room, and especially to get Libby. She is one busy person. Although we were just talking about before the podcast that she's finally slowing down a little bit and taking some time to work on projects. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I mean, that was a hard decision to just say, you know what, I got to stop kind of traveling. I got to stop getting distracted so I can actually get some work done.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard to say no, when you started to really grow all of those different brands and getting into the software industry and things like that. A lot of people wanted you to come talk, and, there were just so many opportunities. Hard to say no to that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Well, and as entrepreneurs, that's one of the challenges that we have, because we're such creative people, right? We want to say yes to everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we love having you here because I love your story. What year did you start Organize It?
In 2014.
Okay, 2014. And it started more as an organizing business, isn't that right?
Yep. It started with only organizing. I was in this weird limbo of going through a divorce, and had to quit my old career because of the divorce and custody battle. And I didn't know what to do with myself. And I've always been super organized. It's always been a passion. And I decided to launch an organizing business, and no startup, less cost than a cleaning business, but totally different skill. Yeah, totally different skill set. And then in 2018, I launched a cleaning division to Organize It. And that's when we started cleaning. And my whole thing was I wanted to make money without working, so I could just hire cleaners to do the job. And this was going to be so easy.
Isn't it? It was so easy, right?
It's yeah.
I think that a lot of us come into it that way, coming from every other business that you're in, you're thinking, well, how hard can it be to run a cleaning business?
Or to clean a house? It's not rocket science.
Yeah. Right. And, managing all of the customers and managing the team. So what was your experience when you started out your cleaning business? How did that go? What did that progression look like?
Um, well, it was such a great like learning phase. The first thing I did was like I dove in and and I did the same thing when I started organizing. I dove in and I like read every book I could on cleaning. Like I followed everybody I could. Um, I actually like hired cleaners to clean my house so I could watch like, oh, how do they clean? I had never had cleaning. I didn't know anything about it.
That's
So I'm
really
like,
smart.
yeah. So I hired cleaning companies to come clean my
Mhm.
house so I could watch and what do they do? How do they communicate? What do they charge me? Um, I'm a very visual learner, so if I just
Mhm.
see somebody do it, I can then like mimic it.
Mhm.
And so I launched it, and it was one of those things where, like, right when we launched it, we were kind of feeding off of our organizing customers.
Mhm.
That's where I got the idea. The organizing customers were like, "You should clean because we can't find any good cleaners that are
Interesting.
like
Now,
show up."
were you the
Yeah.
only organizer, or did you have
Yes.
other organizers working for you? It was just
Nope.
you.
It was
Okay.
just me I did it for like 3.5, 4 years. I made great money. Organizing is always part-time and it's not recurring, right?
Mhm. Yeah, generally, right.
Hmm.
And just for those of you who are, listening, she's serious about organizing. If you ever get to know Libby, like organizing is like just part of her DNA. But you went on to become a Marie Kondo certified organizer, which is like top level. Like there are
Yes.
very few people in the world, right, who are
Hmm.
certified. How many people are there? I know it's like
Oh, I think there's only 200 or 300 people that are certified as Marie Kondo organizers, but then there's status. So I hold the second highest status.
holy cow.
Um, but
Hmm.
I don't I could hold the highest, but I stopped working in the field.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so when I decided to add cleaning, we already had like people, leads, indication of interest. So it started out like really well, like too well. That whole like everybody wants me to clean their house and I'm not even marketing kind of
Hmm.
feeling that we hear all the
Hmm.
time. And all of a sudden, I found out that I was pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
And I had just launched the cleaning and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It was like that moment of like, I was so happy and I was sad.
Hmm.
I was so happy because I had struggled for years to have Yaya, my
Mhm.
youngest daughter, who's 6. And I was sad because the cleaning business was doing so well. And
Yeah.
I was like the only cleaner. I had a helper, like a helper.
Right.
But I
So
was
you're
only,
you're out there cleaning in the field.
Mhm.
You have a helper, and now you're pregnant. Oh my goodness. Yeah. The perfect
And
storm.
yeah, it was a perfect storm. It didn't matter as organized as I was. I just didn't have the experience to know how to scale it or to even get myself out.
Mhm.
And, I kept cleaning. My commitment was when I opened the cleaning division, I would clean for like the first year to learn the ins and outs. And, as time went on, like we were doing great. And I had one helper and then I had two helpers and me all going to the same house, all three of us or two of us, depending
Mhm.
on the day.
Mhm.
And it was always me. And I got a little scared of like, what am I going to do when I can't clean? Like, I have to have this baby eventually.
It's gonna come out.
And like I remember I worked until like the day before I had her, like going to the house,
Really?
scrubbing toilets, checking on my staff because I didn't trust them, at least driving them to the jobs because maybe they didn't drive or have a car.
Mhm.
And I, it was like that moment of desperation. And they said they would do what they would have to do to cover me until for like
Mhm.
a month or two, like, right. So you can take care
Mhm.
of the baby and come back. But they expected me to come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and it's like, we all get in these moments of like desperation or delirium. Delirium is like when you're super exhausted or you're
Mhm.
burnt out, or moments of desperation. But we don't realize is that some of the best ideas and innovation come in these moments of desperation or delirium.
Yeah. Isn't that true?
Mhm.
It forces you to get creative,
So
right?
what happened? I had Yaya, still had not found anything, trying to figure it out, like rescheduling customers. not taking any new customers. And I had her, and about a month or two later, you know,
Hmm.
I found my solution,
Okay.
found the answer.
Yeah.
And so many of us try to figure it out. We're just trying to figure it out. And so what I did during those nights of being up late with a newborn was I was looking for help. I was looking
Mhm.
on YouTube, like, how do I do this? How do I stay in the field? How do I not go back? And
Right.
that's how I found CBF.
Oh, okay. Like,
And
and anybody who's had a little one knows what that's like. You're like, oh my gosh, will this baby ever sleep? And so you use that time to do other stuff. It's
yeah,
amazing what you will do in the middle of the night when you have a little one. But that's so
yep.
cool that
And
you
I
found that.
and I found speed cleaning, actually, not CBF.
Oh, okay, so speed cleaning first. Yeah.
I found speed cleaning. Loved it. My organized brain and structure was like, oh my gosh, a process.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I loved it. And then I found out there was more. And I was like, I have to learn about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you were how old was Yaya at this point?
I think she was 2 months old.
Oh my goodness. And so you did not go back into the field then?
I never went back in the field after having her.
Wow. How great. And so how many employees at this point?
I just had the two helpers. Um, we only know what we know when we're small businesses.
Mhm.
I'm doing this because I'm like, they were helpers. They were 1099s.
Right.
Um,
Almost
I,
everybody starts out, I mean, a huge portion of people in the cleaning industry start out that way. I bought a little business, and my business that I bought had 1099s, and then I converted them to W-2s. So
yes,
it
I was
is.
not doing things the right way. I wasn't
Mhm,
doing things the legal way,
mhm.
but I only knew what I knew. Um, and once you know, then that changes everything.
Yeah. Right. And we tend to, I mean, you were doing what a lot of us do. You look around and you're like, well, how is everybody else doing it? And then you kind of create your business from all the pieces of information that you find. So you're at two employees. Your little one is, 2 months old. What was like the big thing that helped you to start being able to grow, Organize It, the cleaning part of Organize It, that kind of really helped you take off?
Um, not questioning anything. So, um,
Interesting.
not questioning what I just bought. So we all, and this is like my new favorite analogy that I've been using. And
Mhm.
we all will go to Disney World and we will pay a ton of money for a fast pass to cut the line, right?
Human beings like shortcuts.
We like shortcuts. But what I found was like when I finally found a process, like when I found CBF and I was like, oh my gosh, here it is, it's made. It was like, I just took it and I just implemented it. I didn't ask the question about why or what if or but
Mhm.
or should or any of those words. I didn't allow those inside because if I didn't do this fast, I had to go back to clean or I was going
Mhm.
to lose all my account, all my customers. So I didn't have time to question the process. So I just did it. And without questioning, like, but what if this doesn't work or changing it or tweaking
Mhm.
it? I just took a process and I followed it. But it's like the cheat code at Disney World. I'm willing to pay more money to cut the line and I don't have to make those mistakes myself.
Right. Yeah. You found it's not necessarily a shortcut, but the treasure map, right? Like,
Hmm.
if I follow these steps, it will get me where I want to go.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've seen this, so many people, um, they try to find the free stuff, right? Like all the free advice out there and piece it together.
Yep.
But you invested in an entire system.
Yes. When I wasn't working and just had a new baby
Hmm.
and losing customers.
Yeah. And it was not a small investment, right? I mean, it's a significant investment, but
Mhm.
and yeah, so the thing that you learned from that was.
That I didn't, if, there are ways to do things. And if we just follow those processes, if they're proven, follow that process. The thing I learned was, and I hear this all the time in our industry, was like,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm the only trainer. But who, like, I can't hire no more because I don't have any more trainers. Or
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm having a baby, I can't train anybody else. I just defer, like, we didn't have trainers. We're like, here's the video and here's the book. Read it and go do it.
Yeah.
I wasn't scared I wasn't scared in making a mistake with implementing it because we were already making so many mistakes that it could
Mm-hmm.
only help my situation, not hurt it. And so what I learned was the power in following a process and not diverting it or changing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's okay that if that process isn't perfect, because like I said, I didn't have a trainer. I just said, here's a book and here's a video, go follow it.
Right.
And we were able to make it work.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing. And being an organizer like you are, you probably can really relate to this. There's a lot of perfectionists in our industry. And so the fear of failure and not doing it just so, I think holds so many people back. I
Mm-hmm.
know it held me back for a long time and I made the mistake of when I purchased into, a coaching program and a system of not following the process, of arguing with the process and saying, oh, things are different in my area. We can't do it that way. So the fact that you just took it and out of necessity, but also being really smart about it, followed the system to a T. And
I mean,
so,
it's also one of my downfalls. It's a great trait to have,
yeah,
but it's also
yeah,
a downfall. But a downfall is in sometimes if you're too structured or too organized, it can slow you down. Um,
sure. Yeah.
but I think that is also one of the things that not just got me out of the field from cleaning or not having to go back, but it's also helped me grow and scale into other verticals, locations, and industries.
Mm-hmm.
Because I hire mentors, I hire a coach. Like one of my favorite things to do is hire a coach to help me find my next coach.
That's so great. Right.
Right?
Who'd ever
Because
thought?
who'd ever thought? And so you just keep kind of up leveling and you keep
Mhm.
going. But if they're a great coach, you're like, why reinvent the wheel?
Mhm.
You can just take that, make it your own, and you can keep running at a pace that nobody can keep up with.
Right. And I think that is one thing that a lot of people who are entrepreneurs for the first time don't realize that you're actually not supposed to do it by yourself, even though people think the word entrepreneur kind of means that. There are so many communities out there. There are so many coaches and leaders who can help you. And the ones who are exploding and taking off, if you dig deep into that, the reason behind it is probably because they have education or a coach or a community that they're part of,
Yes.
right?
Uh, the amount of money I spend, Jeannie, on learning, I have to sometimes do a reset to like,
Yeah.
okay, this is getting a little out of control. um, maybe, but it's because I have learned how to just kind of learn, like learn, do, and implement
Yeah.
so that you can just keep going at a fast momentum.
Right. So yeah, the secret here is, investing in yourself, investing in learning and like doing actually what those coaches tell you to do. And so I love this, Libby, because this is something that so many people miss when they're starting out their business and they live in misery for years trying to figure it out. So I want to come back. We're going to take a little bit of break to hear a little bit more about CBF and a special event we have coming up. But I want to come back and kind of dive into like what that has freed you up to do, because you guys are not going to believe all the stuff that Libby's involved in. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that in just a minute. After 9 incredible years, it's the grand finale of CBF Live. We're going out with a bang and you don't want to miss it. Join CBF founder Debbie Sardone and hundreds of cleaning professionals for 3 game-changing days packed with insider strategies, powerful networking, and exclusive tools to take your business to the next level. This is your last chance before CBF Live is gone forever. Use my discount code in the show notes and save $100 on your ticket to CBF Live 2025. Welcome back, everybody, to True Grime Stories. We're back here with Libby DeLucien, and she is sharing a great strategy that I hope you don't miss, that helps entrepreneurs kind of, jump frog or take this shortcut or, get there faster, that I think so many of us can learn from this. So Libby, you were sharing how you invest in yourself, in your education. So share a little bit more about that. Like, what's your philosophy behind learning? Because I've watched you all these years that I've known you, and you move with exponential speed. We always joke around, those of us who know Libby, that there is more than one Libby.
Multiple.
Multiple Libbies.
So my strategy for learning is, first off, you have to find that community program coach that resonates with you. And coaching and mentoring can be a very personal journey. Like it's very personal. So making sure that it fits not just you, but where you want to go. Like, what is the future version? And I think that just goes back to more self-work of like, do you even know where you want to go? You just know what you're trying to fix.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, so, is this program, are these people where you want to go, where you want to be, who you want to be? Like, do they have the relationships that you want, even in their marriage or in their family?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good point.
Are these great examples of because there is no such thing, I can get on a soapbox on this one, as like a work-life balance. It's an integrated work. It's an integrated life. If you're a business owner, there's very little balance, but there's managing of the energy that you have. And then how do I integrate this into a life that I love?
Oh my gosh, that's so good right there. We all can learn from that, because people keep talking about this quest for work-life balance. And it's like, be happy that you have this wonderful business. It's part of your life.
And let that business be the vehicle to give you what you want in life. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, back to like how I learn, or my philosophy for learning is I look for that, because then I'm going to show up, then I'm happy to be there. I'm chasing that person. Also, one of my, my personal things is in my vision board, I have the next person that I'm chasing on my vision board. Mm-hmm. And I always ask my husband, because sometimes it is a guy. I was like, do you mind if I put a picture of him on my vision board?
Well, it's nice that you're considerate to Chris that way. He's a great guy. He gets it.
So looking at all those things, like, are they where I want to be? And then from there, this is hard to do, because in life, if sometimes some of us need a clear understanding to believe something. So just knowing like, hey, I'm paying this person because they've made the mistakes, and I want to skip those, right? Mm-hmm. There's some mistakes we have to have. It's the learning moment. We can't skip some of these mistakes, but I'm paying them for their knowledge and their experience. So I just need to follow it and do it. Mm-hmm. But there are some there's some not great advice out there. So just make sure you do your vetting, you align with those values. They are where you want to be personally and professionally. Ask them, how is your marriage? Like, if that's something that's important to you, it's become very important to me. So I look for that.
You want
in my
to be around
community.
People who are where you want to go in life. And I hear all the time from people who have hired coaches who didn't help them get anywhere. And I think so much of it is that they don't resonate with them. That coach really doesn't have their best interest at heart. Or often we hear from coaches who aren't even in that industry that they're coaching. Yeah. So they can't really support people.
Yes. And so from learning, I mean, this sounds really boring, right? It's actually scheduled in my calendar. Mm-hmm. We practice the perfect week here in my house and in my business and with my kids, everybody. We have cadence calendars. That's going to be a section of my book, cadence calendars in the business for the
Mm-hmm.
departments of the business. But it's scheduled in my calendar, my learning time. And then second, I bring my team with me. My team has to be running at least they're behind me because they
Mm-hmm.
can't be at the same speed or they'd be a business owner. But I bring my team with me and I share the learning and hey, I need you to watch this. Like, hey, I need you to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to see the results of the learning and the that coaching transform. And
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh my gosh, this works. And then you get addicted to like, oh, that worked too. Like, let's do this one. And
Mm-hmm.
you start to see the result. But I find with learning, if I'm just the only one doing it, or I'm doing it by myself, or I'm not asking for help or involvement, it moves so much slower.
Wow. Yeah. And I think this is also another area that we miss the boat on is we're not investing in the education of our people as
Mm-hmm.
well. Right. And it can completely transform your workplace and your business when you do that. And you're a prime example of that. Um, and anything else on learning?
Trust it, schedule it, and don't do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my last statement is, and I was guilty of this too, is that you can't just be a learning junkie. Um,
Yeah.
One of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich, and it says knowledge is not power, it's applied and organized knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
And that if we're always, always, always just learning, it is not going to move the needle forward. It's not going to make the boat go faster. You
Right.
have to have implementation and execution. So there's a lot of power in not learning. Like I learn, I stop, I implement, right? And
Yeah,
we
you have to give
execute.
yourself time to pause. I mean, how many of us have read these amazing books out there that have action items in them, but we just whiz through the book. We don't do any of the action items. And then guess what? There's another book on our side table that we're going to start reading the next day. And we never jump in and do the work that we, paid for.
Do you know what I one of my 2025 goals are? Is to not read a new book, to reread the
Yeah.
books I should have executed on.
Yeah, because there's so many of them. I mean, we all have books on our shelves. I'm actually in rereading year 2 this year, so we have a common goal. I totally think that we should all be rereading the great books that we have. We often need to be, reminded more than we need more information. It's like
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily all new lessons. Well, and you've just been a great example of applying great lessons to your business. And then also the other thing that I love so much about you, Libby, is that you make sure that you share it. Like you know, Libby is an educator too. She completely helps to educate so many people in the home services industry and even in her community. Like recently during the hurricane, I watched you, Libby, like you were live every day, multiple times a day, helping people in your community. So when you learn, you're helping others, not just in your business, but in your community, educating people. That was so great.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Yeah.
Thank you. I love to teach. One of the things in the years of learning
Mhm.
is, typically when we give advice and teach and inspire, we're like, sometimes we're teaching it from theory. Oh, I read in a book, you should do this. Or like, oh, I
Yeah.
heard this, or I watched a YouTube video of that. But I learned to teach through experience share.
Hmm.
And that has changed the way I like deliver back content and information and share because it has this newfound like passion when I deliver it because it went through an experience which is tied to emotion.
Hmm.
It then creates this like delivery that is so impactful versus like, oh, I read something in a book and let me just regurgitate it to you. Like,
It means so much more when you've lived it and you're
mhm.
speaking from a place of experience, and but yeah, you've just been so generous in that area. And so, you've spent so much time, you started out learning, right? And it sounds like this is something that's just always been part of you from the very beginning. Like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to learn everything I can about it, from the time when you started your organizing business to your cleaning business. And then that has taken things to a whole other level in the Libby DeLucien universe, or what do you call it? Do you have
Well, it's
the Libby
actually
verse?
it's the Libby DeLucien. So we have actually opened Libby DeLucien LLC, which is
Mhm.
we're calling it an ecosystem for the
Mhm.
cleaning industry. Whether it's our cleaning company or what you're getting ready to talk about, the
Mhm.
softwares.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So Libby has gone on, and I remember when I first started to get to know you and you were telling me about your hiring process, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I need to know this person better." Like, because you had developed this amazing hiring process that you went on to then turn into a software, which has helped hundreds of businesses build better teams. I'm a big believer in one of the firms that Libby has developed called Woot Recruit. And I suggest it to people all the time because Woot Recruit helps people hire faster, better, all around, building a stronger team. Tell us your kind of your story, your evolution of getting into software, and kind of what's going with that right now and what's coming.
So, you know, never thought I would be in the software industry. Um,
Who'd have
but if
thought,
we, who'd have
going from
thought?
cleaning to software?
But if we think about it, a software that we buy is nothing but a system or process that has been put onto tech
Mm-hmm.
to make it faster or more automated or to leverage it. And so, because I am super organized, I was like, oh, that kind of does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
because where organize or where Root Recruit came from was I created a process to be able to hire within Organize It, my cleaning and organizing company, and to be able to hire at the growth that we were growing at, right? I had just joined CBF. We were growing fast. I was on a track to 1 million and I had a newborn. And I'm like, what are we doing? And so I created this process, and Debbie actually invited me to CBF Live to share the process to a small group, it was like an intimate breakout room.
I was there.
You were there. And Paul Fasthauer was in the audience. And Paul
Okay.
actually owns one of the largest cleaning companies still here in the United
Mhm.
States, single location. And he was there and he was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. He's
Mhm.
like, this was worth my whole trip. Will you help me implement this in my business? And I wasn't selling it. Debbie had just asked me to share like what I was doing because I was doing something that was working.
Mhm.
And I told Paul, I was like, yeah, sure. Like COVID had just hit. That was March of 2020.
That's
And we weren't
right.
even sure we were going to like fly home. Remember, the airport was
Oh,
empty. There was
yeah.
no one on the plane.
We were
Like,
moving our flights around and
there
everything.
was
We
no
thought
one
the
in the
world was
hotel.
ending. Yeah, we were the only people in the hotel. That was
Yep.
crazy.
And so I told Paul, we went back. That was March. We took a couple months to build it out for him. So from July to September, he went from 17 cleaners to 42.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot that. That's
Yeah. So he
amazing.
went from 17 to 42 from July to September. And then in September, he goes, he's like, this works. Like this process works. It scales. It needs the volume. It gives us the volume we need versus like the ATSs where they're
Mhm.
super slow.
Mhm.
ATSs have their place. If you don't know what an ATS is, it's an
Yeah.
applicant tracking
I was just going
system.
to ask you to tell that. Yeah, thank you.
Typically, it's
Uh-huh.
free with like our payroll or like
Mhm.
Bamboo or Gusto. And
Mhm.
they do work for like to me they work for higher level hires. Like if my revenue per employee is $1 million, like a garage door installer,
Right.
an ATS will get me by.
Mhm.
Also, the higher revenue per employees don't have as much turnover as we have in cleaning.
Mhm. Right.
So Paul was like, "Hey, this is amazing. Do you want to go into business together and scale this out and help the industry?" And I was like, "Sure." um, and so we started working on it. We asked a few of our close residential cleaning friends to like, "Hey, test this for us. Tell me what you
Mhm.
like, you don't like." And then from there, in January of 2021, we were like really officially a business and like launched it as a product. And it's been a crazy ride. The first year we grossed $1 million.
Isn't that amazing? That's
And,
shocking.
and then in cleaning, I'm like, it took me 3 years to get to $1 million. And it was agonizing. In software, it was so different. And everything we thought would work because we were like basing it off of our cleaning experience in the software. And we're like, well, that sucked. That didn't work. That failed. That didn't
It's
work.
a big learning experience. And that's, when you shift from one business to another, there is always a learning curve. I've learned that the hard way for sure. It's like you come into one business and you're like, oh, I was successful at this. I'm going to definitely like knock it out of the park here. And it's very humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's been a fun ride. That year, no, sorry, maybe it was a year later. So April of 2022, I decided we had kind of, was it April? I have to look back. We had stalled in growth. And this was like a real thing. Like I should get serious. And I went and sought a mentor for software specifically. And that just, in 6 months, we doubled our revenue again.
So great.
And so that's like the cheat code again, right? It's the fast pass lane at Disney World. Otherwise, how would I figure it out? It would take me years to figure out, like, why did we stall? Like, why are we kind of plateauing?
Well, it's so helpful to have, number one, someone who's walked the path before successfully, to learn from their mistakes, but then also to have objective eyes looking at your business. We cannot see like our mistakes sometimes. It really takes someone else to take a look at it.
No, I'm a basketball coach, or I used to coach. I don't coach anymore. I don't have time. But I would always say that this is my business analogy of my basketball experience, is that every mom, when I coached basketball, thought that their child was Michael Jordan. Every mom thought that.
Yeah, right.
And they're like, but why aren't you putting my kid in? He's amazing. And you're looking at her like, did you watch the same game? Like, he's not amazing. Like, he needs to practice. Tell him to put up more shots, to practice more. And I use this analogy with business because every one of us think that our business is special, like a snowflake.
And in reality, we're really amazing.
Yeah. And that our business is special. It's different. It's not going to work in my area. That it's a snowflake. And I use a snowflake for a precise example of a snowflake is made up of water, which is not special.
Right.
It's a very common element. Yes, your business may be special to you, or like you love it because you birthed it like from infancy and you grew it. So it's okay to feel that way. We all do. But like Jeannie said, it's great to have somebody else's eyes because we all think that our business is a snowflake or, Michael Jordan.
Right.
But in reality, are we as good as we think, or is it as special as we think it is? And outside eyes can give us that perspective.
Yeah. And we have to be open to taking that kind of feedback, and a lot of times people get defensive and I'll tell you what, if you're not open to feedback, it's going to hold you back. And that's the other thing, Libby, that you're great at too, is, you, like you said, what can we do? How can we make this better? So Woot Recruit now has grown now to serve, how many different industries are you in?
So we're in about 25 different verticals.
That's so amazing.
With cleaning and lawn care being our primary industry. But we're also very big into roofing. Don't ask me why, but paralegal. So we're recruiting for some law firms.
Right? Yeah.
So it's roofing, like paralegal, truck driving. So CDL drivers. So we recruit primarily W-2 employees, entry-level positions. And we're huge in commercial cleaning. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We do hundreds and hundreds of commercial cleaning accounts.
That's so great. Yeah. Libby has gotten really well connected over the years. And I'm sure just not only through word of mouth, but just your exposure, have drawn a lot of people to it. So congratulations. It's just been amazing to watch, and my company has benefited from it. It's been great. And, but now you've gone on to do other things. So you've developed another software to help with sales, right?
Yes. Sell, Convert, Clean. I partnered with a gentleman for the original version, and he wanted to focus on, he was in lawn care. He wanted to focus on his lawn care sector.
Okay.
And so I bought the code from him. I was telling Jeannie prior,
Mhm.
I paid thousands and thousands of dollars for this code, and you get the code, and you're just like, I don't understand it. We couldn't even
Yeah.
read
Now what
it
do I
because
do with this, right?
it was
Yeah.
written in a language that none of us were familiar with. Um, but I knew that it would help our industry, and it goes in line with my long-term vision. I've been doing so much self-work the last couple years. I really want to have that ecosystem that supports cleaning, whether you're residential or commercial, and that ecosystem where we're not just giving you employees or getting you employees, we're also helping you get more jobs or get more work.
Mhm. Well,
Quote,
they go
more
together.
jobs.
You can have all the employees in the world, and I hear a lot of people who have Woot Recruit will get overhired really fast,
Yeah.
and then they don't have the sales system in place to support that growth. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, I have all these employees. Now what do I do with them?" Yeah, so that's
And
so cool.
so I bought it actually with the intention because they wanted to sell the code. And so I was like, okay, he wanted so much money for it, right? Negotiation skills are amazing to have. Like as we grow, like
Mhm.
I was kind of proud of myself. I was like, oh wow, the old version of me would have just said, sure, I'll pay you all that, no problem. Would you like a little
Mhm.
bit of extra? And then now I'm like, oh, you're crazy. Let's take a deeper dive on this. And so I got a good deal with the power of negotiation,
Good.
and the reason I really bought it is yes, it fits in my vision of helping the ecosystem within the cleaning industry. As Jeannie knows, we sit on ISSA council together for residential. Is I'm passionate about cleaning, but I'm also passionate about my family and getting them immersed in cleaning. So I bought it with the intention of my 16-year-old really taking it over alongside with my husband because he's a technical person. He's a just a developer as well.
Mhm.
For them to have something to work in and towards.
Yeah. Wow, that's so great. And you're building quite the empire. And then on top of the software, so there's the organizing, cleaning software, and now Libby is getting ready to release her first book. So tell us a little bit about your book.
Yes. So the book is it's all about how I've grown and scaled multiple verticals using my processes, my frameworks. So it is called One Layer Deep, and
Mhm.
that's because when I said in the interview process of pulling this book out and to write a book, it's been such a self-discovering journey because they're pulling everything out of you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was inside there.
Right. Yeah. Working
Um,
with writing a
mhm.
book to in this day and age isn't something that most people do by themselves, right? You work with a team, right, to help you create a great book. So that's so cool.
Yes. And when I said the phrase one layer deep, he goes, oh my God, wait a minute. I've never heard anybody say that.
Mhm.
And I used it in my organizing business because when we would go to create a process for a
Mhm.
customer, right? You take everything out, you have your process, but to go back and put it back together, I always use the philosophy, okay, everything has to be one layer deep or you will not maintain this after I leave.
Mhm. That's so true. Yeah.
Right.
So
And
true.
so,
Yeah.
um, and after we dug into it and we started looking, he goes, that's how everything here is made. Every process, every framework. So it had started originally as micro playbooks because that's part
Mhm.
of my framework. And he goes, but there's so much more. So we pulled it
Mhm.
all out. And it's comparable to almost an operating system for small businesses.
That's so exciting. And yeah, so do you feel, or, is it designed for all entrepreneurs, or, is your book more geared towards certain industries or?
So that was the difficult part because I've
Mhm.
used this to scale a software and
Mhm.
to scale a cleaning company.
Right.
So the book is more around where the entrepreneur is in their journey when it comes to revenue or mindset.
Mhm.
So it is written from the perspective. So I'm giving both examples in the book. I'm giving a cleaning example because all of the book is written on past experience.
Mhm.
So I would be giving examples from either coaching, of how I like gave someone a framework or we worked on something. So either a coaching customer or my own experience in Organize It or my own experience in the software.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we can't wait to read your book. And that's going to be coming out this spring. And we'll be sharing a link in our show notes to sign up for the pre-release notification for Libby's book. That's exciting. And of course, links to Libby's software and company so you can check that out. Something else that's really cool that you've done, Libby, that I'm super excited about too, is your children's book.
Yeah.
So tell us about your children's book. So Libby just never stops. I'm telling you, there are more than one Libby, and there's more than one Libby in the world. But just to get all this stuff done. But the thing that I've learned about Libby is she's so great at building teams. Not only does she get a lot of stuff done, and she's super organized, but she's also great at building teams that helps her get all this stuff done. But tell us about your children's book.
I always say there is more than one of me. It is the team. It is the team I
The
have
team,
around me that is
right? You built the Libby's.
absolutely amazing. From my team at Organize It to Woo Recruit to the relationship I've built with my husband, that he helps me protect myself from myself.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. We all need somebody like that.
So,
And especially when you're hard driving like you are, because
yes.
some people drive themselves into the ground.
Oh, I would. I have. I
Yeah.
overcommit. One of my biggest self-sabotaging tendencies is overcommitting to the detriment of my own well-being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
Can
like, do you want to
easily
coach
burn yourself.
soccer, PTA, the business? Hey, I have a question. Like, can we meet on a Zoom? And I'm like saying yes to everything. And it's like, oh my gosh, no wonder like I'm miserable. I
Mm-hmm.
overcommit and I hold those commitments so sacred. Again, it comes from past trauma. I hold them so sacred that I won't break them at any like cost.
Yeah. So it's one of the things that makes you great, but it's also one of the things that can really hurt you in the long run, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that we admire so much about you. But yeah, I'm glad that you have that support system around you, because that's gonna make it sustainable for you, right?
And
And
it
we
helps
do
me
see
not.
these like meteoric rises like yours often go, down really fast. And so I'm so happy for you that way, that you have this great support system, but it's intentional. It didn't happen by mistake. You totally planned it that way. And, you're such a great communicator. And, I mean, you probably could also write like a marriage book, like you share so much, you and Chris share so much, that kind of thing. But so you're back to your children's book. So tell us the title.
So it is Leading Like an Elephant, Big Heart, Big Difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I'm probably more excited for the kids' book than the actual like book that took like a year and a half of my life and
Mm-hmm.
tons of money, because the kids' book is residential cleaning specific. And my publicist said, hey, like, yes, we're going to launch your book. But he's like, what do you think about a kid's book? I'm like, I don't know. Like, why? He goes, well, a lot of the great authors launch a children's book alongside. It's a great like way to connect with your ICP, your ideal customer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great giveaway for maybe Organize at the cleaning company. So I was like, sure. And it is residential cleaning specific. It's very cute. I was able to incorporate all three of my kids. They're all characters in the book. They got to pick their animal because we're using jungle animals. And Yaya, my youngest, is the cleaning business owner, boss. She's the boss.
And what's her animal?
She's the elephant.
Okay, so she is the elephant. Okay,
She
great.
is the elephant, and she's the boss. And her two brothers, Austin and Billy, are her employees, and she's never had employees before.
Uh-huh.
And she's just bossing them around, and she has so much work she can't handle, and she doesn't know how to lead them, right, with a big heart. And she's just leading it into the ground.
Hmm.
And she has an epiphany moment of like, how do I talk to you? How do I communicate? How do I lead with my heart instead of, with dollar signs?
Yeah.
And so it was fun because my kids got to pick their characters, what they wanted to look like. And it was fun also because it's just very light hearted, because it is a kid's book targeted, I think, from 6 to 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Which is,
we really want to lean into it with organize it, like, give it to our customers. Can we, we're having coloring books made alongside it
mm-hmm.
that we can share with like the schools or like daycares or as giveaways or promotions to, my mission is back to cleaning. It's like to change the way the world looks at cleaning.
Yeah. Well, and you're definitely doing that, but I think it's really cool to incorporate children in your entrepreneurial journey because so many kids dream of being entrepreneurs someday, but the school systems don't really teach that. And leadership, for sure, is an area that we're certainly not born that way.
Nope.
And people don't really think about it, so to give children that taste of what leadership truly is, it's leading with the heart, getting in there and doing the hard work, that kind of thing. That is so cool. There's so many things. We could go on and on about Libby all day. And Libby also has a great podcast, Fearlessness. Mm-hmm. So check that out. We'll include that in our show notes too. Talking to lots of movers and shakers on her podcast. So make sure we check that out. Libby, what a great example you are of, taking everything that's out there and, taking it to heart, learning from others, being really open to learning from others. You're one of those people that it's like, you admit that you don't know everything, right? And go into it with that, like, I'm going to learn how to do this. I think it's a great example for all of us because so many entrepreneurs go out there and just think my way is the right way. And then they find themselves caught in that grime story of, oh my gosh, how did I get here? And how do I get out of this? So thank you.
I think that sadly, the way we're wired as entrepreneurs, it's hard for us to take feedback because we're so emotionally attached. Mm-hmm. It's hard for us to admit when we're wrong because, again, we're so emotionally attached to our business that it's almost like you have to rewire. I just had a coaching call with my coach this morning. Oh, and I was celebrating a win of like, I actually admitted that this is my problem, not one of our leaders in one of our business. And I need to like kind of step back. Me. Mm-hmm. And he's like, that's great. Like that's what we're trying to get to. And I think that for us to not hate our business, for us to grow, like so many of us have had apathy for our own business. Like, oh my God, it's Monday. I don't want to go. I don't want to go into the office. Even as the owner, we get that. Is that we almost have to rewire the way our brain works.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people think that if you have the desire to be an entrepreneur, that the ability to be an entrepreneur will come naturally to you. And just like anything that we do, we have to go out there and seek advice. We have to learn. We have to apply what we learn. So the lesson that you shared today is that learning is so important, right? And look where it's taken you. It's just so fun to watch your journey and to be following it and to have benefited from it. I've learned so much from you. So it's been great. Well, thank you, Libby, for being here today. We could go on and on because you just have so many great stories to share, but we will be watching for your new book and we'll be sure and be sharing that in our show notes. And to anybody who's watching today, be sure and follow Libby DeLucien. There's so much you can learn. Check out the links that we're going to share. And thank you for being here for True Grime Stories. Watch for our next episode. Be sure and share, subscribe, and download. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Libby. That's a wrap on today's True Grime Stories. Thanks for joining us in uncovering the secrets of cleaning business success. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and download, and check out our show notes for links and info from today's episode, and to learn more about our sponsor, Cleaning Business Fundamentals. Join us next time as we solve another True Grime story.